Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Journal Q&A podcast. It's slightly late, thanks to some technical difficulties on our wonderful host StreamYard site, but we're here, we're live, and I've got Stevie and Dino with me. Stevie, how's it going?
Good evening, mate. I'm very well, thanks. How's you?
I've got Dino. Dino, how's it going, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, lad. We're just waiting on Mitch joining us. So tonight's format is a Q&A. So if you want to start firing questions into the chat, I'll try and get through them as many as I can. All I do is apologise again for the wait. Was out of our hands, but we're here and we're ready to go. So before this even had started, I did have a couple of questions in mind I wanted to put to the guys. And the first one I have written down here is we're looking at the prospect of losing somebody key in the team or one of our more valuable assets, and that's in terms of Egeman and Raskin. Stevie, if you were to pick one that would help boost the transfer kitty, who would you rather lose?
I'd rather keep Raskin just for his leadership. I feel, Egerman's, there's so much more to develop there. I suppose he could potentially cost more or get us more than the line. But right now, I think just for the team, I would prefer Raskin to stay and Egerman to go. I mean, it's a horrible one. I don't want either to go, to be fair. But yeah, to me, Raskin's the new skipper, or I'd have him as captain. So yeah, the two, Celtic Egerman. Obviously, I don't want that, but yeah, put him in the spot that I would go. Definitely keep Raskin.
Dino, same question.
Egerman, keep Egerman for me. Sell Raskin now. Probably kind of, I guess, reasons that Stevie just kind of alluded to. Raskin sell just now in 20-25 million. Egerman next season you could be looking in the region of 30 million, and then going on to another club with a sell-on fee for sale now is 15 million. I'm just trying to think of generating as much income into the club going forward. And I think if we're going to be, to be fair, we're in a very privileged place to have assets that we're talking about getting us money in that sort of region. Long gone the days are when we're trying to get £1 million for Scott Wright. So, wanting £1 million for Scott Wright. So I think I would Raskin this summer, Egerman next summer.
Mitch, did you pick up that question at all when you joined?
Sell Iggy or Raskin?
If you had to pick one out of the two, who would you rather sell?
Iggy with a sell-on fee.
I think it'll generate more money.
I think the thing is, if somebody comes in right now and says, let's say 12 to 18 mil, somewhere in that bracket for Iggy, realistically, whatever league he goes to, if he goes there and performs like he does this season, like he has the season that's just been, realistically, a top 6 club in one of the top 5 Euro leagues is sniffing about him for 30, 40 plus. And we've seen that, with the snobbery from some of the English teams in particular, where great example of it we were talking about the other day was Groykas. None of the Premier League teams wanted to play Coventry 20 plus million for him, and then Sporting went in and went, tell you what, we're not snobby, we'll pay you 20 million for it. Yes. And now the English clubs are all fighting over 65 to 70 million pound to sign him.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, really, if you just pulled your finger out and weren't so snobby and paid Coventry what they wanted, you could have had him for a third of the price. And this is why you don't get any value from shopping down south.
Yeah.
But I'd put a nice wee fat sell-on fee there, because I think if you get, say, the 15 to 18 million for Iggy, and then he does really, really well for 18 months wherever he goes, realistically, you're looking at moving again for double, maybe 2.5 times that again. And because as we all know, every big club likes a shiny new toy, just like Dino.
I do think that on that, most players, I think these days when they do get sold, will have some sort of sell-on clause anyway. I think that's pretty much a given, and for probably a more specific age range that Iggy and Raskin are both in anyway.
I think about Raskin's issue is that he's got 2 years left in his contract, whereas Iggyman's got 4. So the ball's in our court in terms of Iggyman. But if you were to get Raskin tied down and say, look, here's a year's extension, and then try and get another year out of him, because he's playing international football while he's playing for Rangers.
Yeah,
that's a big selling point, and I think that's something we should try to hammer home to him and say, look, give us another year. Here's the captain's armband. Give us another year under the new manager, and then because he's still he's 26, isn't he? He's still maybe 26, 27. Then by the time he's going, gets his dream move to the Premiership. Granted, if he stays the way he's going and he keeps playing international games beside De Bruyne and making a name for himself, he could get that move to Chelsea that he harped on about when he first came. If he keeps going the trajectory that he's on at the moment, so
yeah,
that's my two cents on it.
I totally agree. If he plays in the World Cup next year for Belgium, his value's going to double. You know what I mean? So new contract, captain Rangers maybe, put the World Cup, and also for his perspective, he might not want to uproot and go to a new club and be unsettled, and then maybe lose his place in the Belgium team. So
especially during the World Cup year.
Yeah, I think it points to him staying.
I think that. Sorry, Stevie, you're finished there. I think that the argument would have been different for me if Russell Martin didn't come in and basically say that Tav's keeping the captaincy. I think if it came in and said, want to give Raskin I know maybe can't say the first few days, but give Raskin an extension, but with it caveated with the captain's armband, then I would turn around and say, keep Raskin, sell Iggy. But because of that, I think that would be one of the deciding factors on him staying at the club.
Stevie, a question here from Paul. I'll just put it up on the screen now here for you. He says, if Raskin and Dio were sold, Martin wants to keep Davies, Doyle and Cifuentes and Ravi Matondo. How do you think the fans would react to that?
They're probably joining me in the way to the Forth Road Bridge. That's just, that can't happen, Paul. You're a sick man, Paul McTreat. Paul McCarthy, I don't know. No, that can't be. He's at it. He's definitely at it. But no, I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, see if you look at Leeds, they did sell all their best players. That's what they did pretty much straight away. They raised a lot of funds. Yeah. And they went out there and got players for who's the midfielder? Tanaka or something.
Tanaka.
Yeah, they got him for Dusseldorf for a few million, really bargain basement buy. And he's their best player last season, so they've obviously got a scouting network, which we're now basically tapping straight into. So much potential out there for us to get decent players. So it wouldn't surprise me for a couple of, Dio maybe. Iggy, I wouldn't surprise me if raised a bit of cash, but also you've got to think the two guys at Birmingham, Dowell and Davis, that should raise maybe £3 or £4 or £5 million straight off. Dessers, hopefully 5 or 6. That's above 10 million straight away. So maybe look at those guys before we start looking at our better players.
We'll touch on Dessers later on because I've got him here in my notes to discuss. Dino Marks asked a question here about getting certain players off the wage bill. That means we could offer Raskin and Iggyman better contracts and loan Danilo out as well. Possibility, you think?
I'll be honest with you. It was somebody tweeted or something the other day, and it was about us, shrinking the wage bill by some inconsiderable amount last year, and us not really capitalising on that as such. So I don't actually think we would need to offload big earners to give other people improved contracts. I do think that there is going to be scope there for us to play with, because we're in such a far healthier position this time just now than we were this time last year.
Yeah. Aye, that's it. No, you're bang on. Let's say on and off the field. As the case of stability there. Go ahead, Mitch.
I think one of the biggest things as well, though, that we're seeing is we've got actual qualified people in leading transfer negotiations. You know, we've not got the bin fire of the last, realistically, 4 windows for us, where we've undersold our assets, bought in, let's be honest, majority hoaching nonsense that we've brought in. And that's not a dig at Coppin, that's more, I would say, the historic mess that Coppin inherited last year. But we've now, you know, we're talking about actual sensible fees for players, as opposed to, right, give me £2.50 and a bag of chips and you can take them. You know, by all means, if somebody wants to offer that for Rabi, I'll eat the chips. Jock, you can have the £2.50.
Perfect.
I'll take one for the team's waistline there.
Mitch, I'll come to you then with this next question. Reports online that we're reading into saying that apparently this, with a £4 million bid not back for your boy Turgman in Tel Aviv, and I think they're holding out for 6. We're in negotiations with EAK Athens for Dessers around
me.
I know he's your boy for £5 million. Do you think selling, say with Dessers goes and then this guy comes in, do you think that's the right move, considering Dessers has obviously got that proven goal scoring record 2 seasons in a row against a complete unknown?
I think.
Or do you keep both?
I said this during the course of last season of, if the money was right this summer for all parties, whether that be right for Dessers and whether that's right for us as a club, if we can get somebody who, from an athletic, if you put their stats beside each other in terms of height, statistics, they're probably relatively similar. One of them's 9 years younger than the other. You know, one of them's coming in at £5 million, and if he can continue the vein that he's on, that £46 million suddenly becomes stick a 1 in front of it if he does well for 2 years up here. And at that point, we're also, from a financial point of view, the older player has financed the younger player. You know, that older player sale has financed the younger player being brought in, which is the way that all good squads are built when you start to look at it, you know, across the board of the older player that's on the heavier contract will move on somewhere else because they'll get, you know, you look at Saudi just now as a great example. You know, the older players will go to Saudi, they'll get the nice big fat pay packet that they want, but then the club that have moved that older player on bring in a player who's 23, 24, and they're probably on depending on the league, up to 2/3 less money than the player that's left the building on. If you said that Dessers is on, about 26, 27 grand a week, depending on what report you want to go into it on. If you said that Turgman came here on 14 grand a week, that's still 10 grand a week saving on wages, you know, 10 to 12 grand a week. That then, you start to look at players that have come in, like Mulligan and Lyle Cameron. You'd assume between the two of them, they're probably on 10 grand a week. So Dessers going, brings in a new striker and then funds the wages of 2 new players coming in. That'll be squad players that reach that Europa League quota as well, you know, being Scottish players. Will I be sad to go? I think we all know I'll be in like 4 days of national mourning the day that he goes. Do you know if I catch you having a drink during it, I will batter you. Just putting that out there. And Paul, wherever you are lurking in the comments, if you come in there, come looking for me, I'll come looking for your car again. But I think, again, genuinely, if the money makes sense, it makes sense for all parties. And again, a good transfer model works on a player out, pays for a player in. You're on mute, Jock, so whatever beautiful words you're saying, we can't hear.
I think you're spot on what you're saying. I think if we can get a player in the door and then out the door for more money than we brought in, and he's been here for 2 years and he's aged that, but we're making profit on him, we're doing something all right, especially in that age category that he's in. Much to your disdain that he might be going, but I think most of the support would be absolutely delighted. Dino, talking about your man Turgeman, I'm going to struggle with this for weeks. Did you see any of his sort of YouTube clips? I know YouTube's not the best sort of place to try and gauge something, if you look at the stats, but you get a glimpse of what the guy can do when he's not running into a low block and he's got space to work with. He looks like a decent player.
I have not actually seen any of it, so I'm probably the wrong person to be asking this question.
Has any of you seen him? Stevie, go ahead.
I have. And do you know who he reminds me a bit? Remember I'm sure my age here, but remember Roy Mackay, the Dutch striker, played by
Yes, okay.
You only half given us a throwback there, mate.
What was that?
That's a throwback and a half for us there, mate.
Early 2000s.
Early noughties.
Not a bad flip sake.
Very
12-year-old me was loving him.
I thought he looked very athletic and quite quick, quite skillful as well, quite direct. Just gets a sight to go and goes for it. Seems really confident and quite a big lad as well. So, yeah, I think he looks like a really decent player. And you can't blame the Maccabee for holding it for 6 million because it doesn't really buy you much. In Europe, that's the kind of level we're at. But if you look again at Leeds, who they've bought for relatively low funds, I think it could be a cracking bit of business. And like you said, funding it with selling Dessers at a profit is tremendous business.
Yeah, if we can do that, I think, as I say, we're replenishing the stocks and we're bringing in the youth that we can punt. This is a target model that we're aiming to sort of go for. Dino, Marks has another question for us about Jack Butland. If you can read that there. So the latest Jack Butland is he wants to go back to Burnley, or he's back to England, but he's linked with Burnley. Goalkeeper linked as a Newcastle goalkeeper. What do you think? Do you think we should get rid of Butland, or should Butland stay and Martin try and get the best version of Butland we've seen before all the England call-up nonsense sort of when the form start to dip after that?
I think we should be looking to move him on for a multitude of reasons. One of the main ones for me is he is an absolute bomb scare with the ball at his feet. And the term like sweeper keeper, which I think we're all thinking that Russell Martin's going to go with, just gives me the absolute fear that that's him. That's going to be our sweeper keeper. Really, really does. His form, obviously, for well over a year has been absolutely diabolical. I just think he needs to leave. And again, I think it's maybe one of those players who's maybe the shirt's maybe too heavy for the back. I could be wrong, but we've all, as you said, seen what he could do when he first came in. He was a breath of fresh air. He was coming, collecting crosses, stuff we'd not seen since Chris Wood. And it was really, really just refreshing to see that type of goalkeeper, big, commanding, and then he was just an absolute shell of himself probably from March maybe last year. And because we were all praising him to get in the England squad, we were all berating Southgate for not picking him because he was wrong, picking other goalkeepers before him because he was playing that good, and then it just fell off a cliff. So as I said, I think one of the main reasons is mentally I think the shirt was too big for him, which we've seen many a time happen when players come to play for Rangers. So yeah, if there's a team that wants to get him, I think he's the highest earner at the club, one of the highest earners in the country. So getting him off the wage bill and reinvesting that into somebody or two others who can come in and be a standout number one. Now, Stephen Kelly's a good backup. He's probably better with the ball at his feet than Butland.
Stephen Kelly, mate.
Sorry, did I say Liam again?
Stephen Kelly. No, you said Stephen Kelly.
Oh, mate.
My Stephen Kelly. Is that your boyfriend?
Sorry, guys, wrong name. But you know what I mean. I think Kelly's far better with the ball at his feet and gives me a bit more faith and reassurance that it's him as the Butland. So yeah, if we can get money for Butland, I'd be selling him.
Fair enough. I think I'm sort of 50-50. I think playing out the back with your feet as a goalkeeper now is the standard. It's just expected now because of the way football's went. And when he first landed, he did talk about being able to do that. I think he still can do that. I just think it's just a confidence issue. And being Rangers traditionally have always had solid goalkeepers, dependable goalkeepers, in some areas world-class goalkeepers. We've been privileged, I think, over the years. And that shirt, that jersey is very heavy. And whenever you make mistakes and keep making mistakes, it's hard to get back into it and put that behind you. And I think he's just had one of those seasons where he came out the team and then he came back in and there's another mistake again, or he had one good game, you think, right, okay, he's got that game past him, and then another clanger the next week, and it's just you're just like hitting the reset button again, he just goes back into the slump again. I just think maybe fresh approach, new ideas, different style of coaching, just working with him on that. I think he could be the number one that we have seen. We have seen it. He can do it. I don't know if he can regain it, and I'm hoping maybe a fresh perspective under Russell Martin can bring him in and turn that around. We'll go back to the board here. Doug's got a question on: do you think we'll get a surprise marquee signing? Mitch, what do you think?
I've said all along, I think some of our business this summer's going to be some solid names and a couple of sexy names in there. And the solid names are going to be the squad player guys, the ones that when you've got 3 games in a week that can come in and there is no drop in quality from the starting 11 to the guys that are coming in. They're just maybe coming in on a little bit less money, or they're maybe a little bit older. I would say, not to write most of us off here, but over the age of 30, but they're on relatively low money, but they've got some good mileage in the legs and they're solid and dependable. I think, for me, I think there could be anything up to, depending on outgoings, there could be anything up to 10 to 11 players coming in. If not even a couple more than that, if you factor in if there's enough money left over for a project player or two, because I think NCL has graduated out of that programme now.
Yeah.
And I think that was genuinely through circumstance last year. He's fast-tracked his apprenticeship. And I think the same way Agamani as well, he's come in and he's booted that door in quite quickly as well. So if we want to get that revolving door going as well for project players, probably need to grab one of them. So I think in terms of the names, I think we're probably going to see quite safe names coming into the club. And I think that'll be probably based more on the necessity that we have at the moment, rather than making a couple of riskier signings like the boy that we were linked to in South America, Pizarro. He was seen very much as a Coppin signing. The other one, that Omar Kamara from PSG, he looks like he's off to, I think it was Germany or something, Germany or Spain. Again, those are probably signings that, because of the amount of foundational work that needs done to the squad, those signings we probably can't really target right now, because we've got to get the starting 11 and the core group of the team right. And I think that's where we will see that blend of guys like, Connor Cody that have been mentioned. He falls into that solid, not sexy signing category for me, where you go, really experienced defender. We know he's got a good 2 year at least left in the legs. There's no issues about his fitness. He's going to come in, he's going to do the job that we ask him to do, and we're not going to punt him for money down the road either, because that's not the purpose of what he's been brought for. But equally, you look at the likes of Josh Mulligan on the opposite end. He's probably going to come in for, I would say, probably Connor Barron type money with a development fee. 600k, anywhere between 400 and 600k. It's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. But again, huge amount of upside down the road, where if we can get him into the Scotland team, if he does well in the whatever version of Europe we're playing in next year, even if he moves on for £2 or £3 million, that is a successful transfer in that respect. Of not everybody's going to go for £8 or £9 million plus. It would be lovely if they did, but that's not just going to happen. Some players are going to move for £2 or £3 million because that's their ceiling as a player, and that's fine. So, long-winded answer, apologies.
No, you're fine. You're fine, Mitch. Dino, Doug touched on the the guy from PSG, and somebody else in the comments here, RFC72, said the same. Are you disappointed that deal for the young guy fell through? Because that was one that was touted quite early, but then Koppen obviously then left. So do you think we're going to see more of that, and maybe players that Koppen was looking at before the structure changed fall through, or those sort of players are looking at go to other clubs because Koppen's not there anymore?
Well, aye, because you've got Thelwell and Martin coming in with a different style and ethos and philosophy of football, and the players that Koppen would have been looking at would have been to accommodate, I guess, his way that he wants Rangers to play football. That's the only thing I can think of. So, unless there is identified players who can play in a Russell Martin Thelwell system, then I think there would have been a period of time, a bit of crossover with players and things like that, that have shown interest in coming to Rangers. I think it would only been professional for Koppen to have the list of players available to Thelwell and Martin. And I mean, if they're not going to be coming to Rangers to play in the style of football that they want to play, then we'll look onto pastures new, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying there, especially because of the change in the dynamic. And you would have thought maybe there might have been some sort of handover, I guess.
Aye,
but then maybe Koppen doesn't want to hand over his wee secret, stats and statistics on or these wee black book, whatever you want to call it, or laptop, whatever.
Because I think on that, obviously, with them doing these things in South America and whatnot, and got contacts here, there, and everywhere. So I think, as you said, in the handover, that would have maybe been a thing that was conveyed to Thelwell and Russell Martin anyway, I think.
Stevie, Mitch touched on Connor Cody, Blue Jay here, is advocating for him. As Mitch says, he might not be a sexy sign and a sexy name, but he's Premier League level, Premier League quality, and probably would still be for probably at least another 2-3 years, because he's only 32. Somebody you want to see? I know it's one of the names that keeps popping up every sort of couple of days that there's been talks, and I think other Rangers sort of news outlets have been pandering his name as well. So what do you think?
I like him as a pundit. I hear him on 5 Live quite a lot. He does a lot of like Monday Night Club and stuff, and he comes across really well. But to me, he's at that stage of his career where he's moving at the media. I don't think he is what we should be looking for. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, yes. But at the stage he's at, he kind of strikes me as a bit almost like a Mark Warburton signing, or somebody he would try and get back then, like somebody who was really at the tail end of his career. Like I say, he's a really good player, but at the stage of his career he's at, I don't think he's what Rangers really need. I'm pretty sure we're going to sign that. Is it Harry Darlin from
I like him.
Swansea? I think that's going to happen. He's out of contract, mid-20s, and we're talking about sweeper keeper. He's a sweeper. Like, he just sprays the ball. He just takes the ball and he just pings it 60, 70 yards into like different corners. He even drives with the ball. So maybe we don't need Butland to be the sweeper keeper, because if we sign him, that's exactly what he's there to do. But yeah, I'd rather maybe somebody a bit younger than Connor Cody, somebody like that. And at the end of the day, any new manager that comes in, they always want their spine. Like, look at Water when he came back for his second spell. His first 2 signs were Davy Weir and Hugo. Yeah. And then Kevin Thompson a week later. You know what I mean? It's like granite right in the middle of your team. So he's going to go with people he trusts. So yeah, I wouldn't be against Connor Cody, but I think he's just at the wrong side of 30 for us.
Can I just ask you a question on that, Stevie? Sorry, Jock.
Yeah, right.
Do you see in terms of that, so you're saying about Connor Cody's age and stuff and people to trust, and are you kind of wanting them to stay away from that age bracket of experienced centre-half? And so you're like maybe wanting maybe 29, 30 at a push? Is that kind of what you're...
I mean, I wouldn't rule at somebody in the early 30s if it makes sense. But like I say, just the fact that he is so far into his media career, I just don't know if he's got the desire to come into Rangers and really face the challenge. You know what I mean?
totally get it. I didn't even know it was in the media, so thanks for educating me.
Duck had said there that he signed up to do commentary and stuff for the Club World Cup, so he would miss part of the pre-season. Now, that just to me just screams Joey Barton vibes, because he was on a book tour, wasn't he?
I also wouldn't be overly surprised though as well. Though, like there will be, I think this is a summer that we're linked with 80 to 100 player plus easy. Will some players who are potentially in the older end of their career potentially use any interest, whether that be simmering interest, actual interest, or a conversation, as a way of, if you look at Connor Cody's situation with Leicester going down, you'd assume there's a financial penalty involved for him in terms of wage sacrifice. Easy way to make sure that your name's not put down in the wage sacrifice by saying, I'll stay here as long as you don't cut my money. Mm-hmm. And I'll sign another year, or instead of cutting my money in half, if I sign a year's contract extension, I'll take a wage cut, but it's just a little bit of a cut. It's, let's say, a 30% cut instead of a 50% cut. They're guaranteeing their pennies for another couple of years. He knows he's at a club where he's at a starter. You know, I think we're going to see bits of that over the course of the window as well. And the only thing I would say with Harry Darling though is there's a few links now across to Norwich. I can't be losing a centre back to Norwich for the second summer in a row. I can't. Like, and if he goes across there, he's dead to me. That's it. Like, I never want to hear his name mentioned again. But I think it's interesting, you know, guys. Like, I think Thelwell, when you look at his track record over at Wolves and at Everton, that his first couple of windows at Everton, like that's when Everton were really, really, really up the dirt track at that point. It's all right, Jock. I'll save us getting censored there, mate. Like, but Everton were really, 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 really in a bad place at that point. That's when their finances were right up the wall. He managed to bring in guys like Ashley Young and stuff, Dwight McNeil and stuff on free transfers of, look, we need you. We're only paying you a wage, and it was because they'd already shipped other players out for half decent money. So he's got the track record there of going, we can get replacements that, okay, they might not set the world on fire, but they'll do as a turn for just now. And arguably, Ashley Young was probably one of their Everton's best players the last couple of years.
Yeah. I don't mind his age, to be fair, because you know, look at what Balogun did, and Balogun's older. You know, I think, like you say, because he's obviously been relegated, there'll be a contractual thing there that he'll be able to get out of that last year, no doubt, and probably quite cheap. I think he's just that level of quality that as soon as he comes into our league, he should be strides above everything else. But then we thought at the same time with Ben Davies, when he came in, because he was Liverpool took a chance on him, and Liverpool more often not get their recruitment spot on. So I was quite surprised when he came up here and he struggled the way he did. But yeah, it's one of those things. I see Lennon Miller's been linked again, obviously with everybody because of the situation he's in, and the strong links now is Sunderland are willing to pay Motherwell's asking price of $8 million. Do you think we should enter the fray and chuck money in, not necessarily 8, but try and get our hand in there, Stevie? Do you think because I think the ceiling's there, I think the potential's there to spend big on him to get the money back, especially now he's obviously in the Scotland radar. Not that you do much in that Scotland team at the moment anyway. That useless article managing them, but
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him play for Rangers. I really would. It kind of strikes me as a bit like when John McGinn, when he went to England. I think it's going to be very similar to that. He'll really kick. I know McGinn's stayed at Villa the whole time he's been there, but he could have moved on. You know, his value skyrocketed. I think that's what will happen with him. He'll go to Sunderland or a club like Sunderland, and he'll do really well. And then he'll move up to like a Spurs or a top 6, top 8 team kind of thing. But you're right. If we were to get in there and get him, his value would also then skyrocket. But even with us playing in Europe and whatever, hopefully winning trophies with Rangers, it would be good. But I just can't see us spending. Motherwell, if we come from, they'll put the price up again. Do you know what I mean? Because it's Rangers. So, I can't see that, unfortunately.
Ali's got a question here about the Champions League next season. I think we discussed this. Was it last night? I think the boys were chatting about it the other night, saying I don't think there is, because I think Doug explained it, because it's not the 49ers directly involved with both clubs. It's the conglomerate that's got together. It's like a made up of a different group. There's no conflict of interest there, Ali. So I think we'll be fine, whether it's Europa League, Champions League, Conference League. Yeah, I think we're covered there, so we don't need to worry about that. Dino, I'll come to you then. Dan Purdy and Thelwell obviously had great success at Everton, as Mitch was saying about a restricted budget. Now that they come here, and obviously we're going to be working in I wouldn't say a confined budget, but obviously something that's miles off a Premier League team, but still something that they can certainly spread around the whole team. Are you excited by the potential of what these guys is going to bring in and the sort of stuff that they've unearthed because of the some of the deals that they did at Everton, especially some of the younger talent that came through, and that they've actually Everton went on to sell for decent money as well. And your boy, boy one sticks out, the boy Branthwaite, he'll go for serious money this summer, no doubt.
Aye.
What are your thoughts on them two and the potential targets?
I think what I'm excited. It's not just this transfer window, but there being a structure and a plan in place for the next 3-4 transfer windows, and that to be a consistent trait that we're then going to have, because we've got people in charge who are qualified to do the job. That's what I'm most excited about, because we all know that this isn't this summer's, marquee signings and stuff. I'm looking forward to that, but I'm looking forward to, again, like being able to maybe not live from transfer window to transfer window, to hope it gets better the next again transfer window, to hope this, do you know what I mean? Like hope this improves, but it's improved, and we know it's going to be light years ahead of stuff we've been subjected to over the last few years. So that's what I'm most excited about, to be quite honest with you. And I think having people come in and obviously want our club to succeed is, and I know that might sound basic, but kind of get the impression from Thelwell and Purdy and stuff that's going to be, something that they're going to do their best to provide for us. So yeah.
I think we're in that limbo at the moment, aren't we? Because we're in between this stupid transfer window they brought in for just those clubs at the Club World Cup, where folk are moving and you don't understand why, but it's because they're there and they get to do things early. And it's closed again for, I think it's, what was it, less than a week it's closed, and it's back open again.
I think it opens on Tuesday, is that right?
Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
So these guys have been in and around the job for a wee while, but not officially, but officially started, they'll obviously have had targets and be chatting to boys left, right and centre. So I'm hoping once that window's officially open, there's a good couple of bodies come in, because we obviously want to have a good numbers in the squad for the pre-season, which is obviously starting on the 26th, because we've got these Champions League qualifiers coming up. Stevie, Doug was asking then, do you think, talking about pre-season, looking at, obviously, if we don't have our key signings or big names in, as Mitch says, the sexy names in yet, do you think guys like Rice will get regular minutes?
I hope so. Yeah, I'd love to see him play more, especially just starting the season, because obviously he came in last season as things were pretty poor, or we had nobody else, and he was like eventually got a chance. Whereas if they give him that responsibility from the get-go, it's going to benefit him, like give him a bit more confidence and let him kick on. But pre-season's like absolutely huge. Like you say, there's so much that needs and done. Can I just circle back for a wee second? Just one thing you missed about Thelwell at Everton, by the way.
Yeah.
Onana, they signed him for 15 million and they sold him for 50 million pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's incredible profit. They spotted a player and it was like, boom. What? I mean, one season and they got 50 million for him. But sorry, go back to Doug's point. Yeah, I think Billy Rice deserves his chance, but it's going to be a revolving door at Ibrox. Like you say, the pre-season starts in 10 days or something, or
week Monday.
Yeah, it's so close. So once that transfer window opens, we're expecting Mulligan to come through. Well, Cameron's already there. There's going to be a lot of bodies out and a lot of bodies in. But yeah, I'd like to think that Rice is definitely part of it going forward under Martin.
Mitch, Curry's asking, what's the minimum? What minimum signing you would accept this window would you happy with? I'm assuming that's just the minimum amount of bodies.
8.
8.
And I think when you look at who's left between the youngsters and the first team, out of contract players, plus the rumoured departures already, I think 8's probably going to be around about that number. I think last year, if it wasn't for the fact that we were walking about like the walking wounded at points, we probably had too bloated a squad. Arguably, if everybody was fit, it was too bloated and too imbalanced. Where we had about 27 number 10s, we had Dino in the wing, like he was speed dating defenders and all sorts. Like, we probably had. I think genuinely, if we had all players fitting well last season, I think we had probably about 30 players in there. I might be out by 1 or 2, and I think that's probably too heavy. Even though we play on average 50 plus games a season, I still think that's probably too heavy. But I think realistically we need probably 6 starters, and we've already got, with Mulligan coming in and Cameron coming in, you'd assume that's 2 squad players coming in. You'd at least in season 1, 2 squad players coming in. So I think for me, I would want to see at least 8.
Yeah. Dino, many you want in? 8.
Minimum, I would be double figures for me.
Okay.
Double figures for me. I think you could probably argue that we need 8 for the first team alone. 8 starters. You could probably argue. We need our subs to be better, because how many times over the last few years have we looked at the bench and went, oh man, honestly, too many times to think. There's this lack of quality throughout this and in squad players is what I'm meaning. So yeah, minimum of 10 for me.
Stevie,
I'd go for a baker's dozen, mate. I want 13. Seriously, I can see a lot of players going out, so I think we need to get a lot of players coming in. You rattle off the defence. You probably get about 4 or 5 for the back alone. So yeah, I think there's like a huge surgery done basically. But like we've got the Niners, we've got Kavanagh. It's making it so much easier for negotiations for players coming in and going out. So I think it's going to be an exciting few weeks just to see who's turning up.
I do think as well. Sorry to interrupt there, Dino. I think as well what we have to make sure is with what we bring in, we don't stunt our own coming through.
Well,
I think we have to make sure that there are acceptable spaces for the likes of Curtis, for the likes of NCL, for the likes of I'm not going to say McCausland because that ship sails for me. I'm sorry, but like I can't hurt myself by even kidding on that he's there. Like, but I think like NCO, Curtis, Rice, Enciala, these 4 boys need to be in and around that first team. Now, I'm not saying they need to be in every single match day squad, but I think per game there has to be 1 or 2 of them on the bench. Where we let them down as a club last year was the experience beside them was, well, we had a couple of apprentices in there, a couple of plumbers and a couple of pensioners. We can't have that again this year. It's not acceptable for a club of our size to be in that boat again. I think, we did the root canal treatment that we had to with the squad over the last 2 windows.
Yeah.
And it's now time that we can't expect these young players to be successful if we don't arm them with the tools and teammates to be successful. Because when you look at some of the games like Bailey Rice started under Barry, we should not be putting the weight of expectation on an 18-year-old kid who's played less than 30 games of football, at a first team level. That's how you create Leon King 2.0, and you give him too much scar tissue too young. That the best case scenario for somebody like Leon King for me is he moves to a lower end Premier League table team, a lower end SPL table team, or a top-end championship team, knuckles down for 2 seasons, and he carves out a half-decent mid-table Premier, SPFL becomes an SPFL man, and he'll just move between those mid-table teams throughout his career. And that's on us as a club, because we done that to him. Nobody else chucked him to the Wolves at Liverpool that night.
I agree with what you're saying there about, like, obviously they need like better quality beside them. That will obviously help them develop. But at the same time, I expect more for them as well. I think you need to really create a culture where it's like you really need to go and improve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Barry Ferguson.
With that, mate.
Barry Ferguson's a player, like, he had to properly fight tooth and nail just to get anywhere near the bench at Rangers because the quality we had. But there was like an atmosphere and a kind of culture within the dressing room that was like, you don't want to be like a man, like a real tough fella to get into this team, to even get a look in. So I think they need to kind of promote that as well. It's like, playing for Rangers is no joke. You really need to deserve it. Go and prove it.
Aye, but on that, my sort of mindset is, I think if they're not going to be near the first team, they do need to go out on loan and give them loans. And with what we're saying about this transfer window, I'm just going to reiterate the point I made earlier on. If there's got to be movement, there's got to be good, astute signings made this window. But that's got to continue into January as well. If if hypothetically, if 11 do come in, we're still needing another 3 to come in January. Do you know what I mean? So that's got to be the trend that we've got to be obviously setting for the next few windows. Is getting these bodies in, but won't be able to get them in all in a winner.
Well, this brings me on to my next point actually, because RFC 72 hits a nail on the head there, saying, do you expect the clubs to have more deals sewn up by now, with like the Hearts and that have obviously got players coming in? I think you've seen, obviously, we announced Lyle Cameron in January there at the last hour of the window. That would have been one Coppins done, but then obviously with everything that was happening in the background, the chat and the background legal process and all the stuff that was going to happen there, wasn't sure if there was going to go through or not. I don't think the club were in the position to start offering pre-contracts to people, especially on big wages, as Mitch says, the sexy signings. That would all be thrown up in the air. And the point, they probably have people earmarked, no doubt. They probably had a great shopping list as well. I don't doubt Coppin wouldn't have had players earmarked for, we can go and get them, or we can offer them this, that, and the other. But with the takeover, I think that's just put the brakes on a lot of things, and I think that's why we're at the point now where we're only getting linked with names now, because nobody really knows what was agreed, or if anything, if the Thelwells come in and maybe said, right, we had him agreed lined up, we're not taking him anymore, he's not going to suit our new manager. So there might have been deals that have been cancelled as well. We don't know, because that sort of stuff, the press don't really get hear that unless it's something that's so publicised and then it falls through in the last hour. That's the only thing that kind of makes the news. So that's just my 2 cents on that one, too.
That makes sense, because to me it's like under Klopp and what he was having to like deal with and what money he could use, it was like survival. So we've basically gone from surviving to thriving. Do you know what I mean? It's a totally different ballgame now, what we've got at our disposal. So yeah, the takeover only happened just under 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago basically. So we're kind of starting late, but I expect a lot of business will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
I do think as well, I think it's worth noting as well, Thelwell realistically known he's been coming to the job for probably a couple of months now. I think, what was that, about late April, roughly, that was announced that he was coming in, late April, start of May.
Yeah.
You'd assume that obviously those conversations have been ongoing for a little while before obviously it was announced as well. And I think, reading between the lines of it as well, he's obviously had quite a respectful exit from Everton as well, where they didn't really want him in the building, and obviously he didn't really want to be in the building as their new man came in either. He knew he was taking this job, so you'd assume that you can call it like an unofficial consultancy period. Yeah. And I think that's where that handover with Coppin's probably taken place in that last 2 months, where Coppin's went, here's my project players, here's my projected players that I think we could work with. And he's probably given them 3 or 4 different sets of players as well, based on budgets. of if the takeover didn't happen, if it does happen, and if whatever the cash injection was maybe rumoured to be at the time, now we know it's 20 million.
Yeah.
But obviously we also know that not all £20 million going to get pumped into the playing squad either. We know a bulk of it is, but I think we'd be playing our own different economics at that point by saying that all 20 million's going in. I think it's, I don't think we're as far behind as we are, but I think we're just all, because nature of who we all are, we're all just dead impatient that it's not happened yesterday. But I was saying this on one of the other pods. I think one of the things that's helped us this season versus what's happened like last year is, last year the Euros choked everything up in terms of the elite teams shopping between each other. Then that A-team of pools, that A-team of clubs where they sell to the elite teams and then come into the B pool where we are and replace those players that have been sold with players from our pool. And then I think that overall funnel just got absolutely choked and somebody chucked a grenade up at last year. And I think we know as well, now reading between the lines, that the club was getting ready to be sold irrespective of whether it was 49ers or whether it was somebody else buying us. The club was getting ready to be sold, and we had the whole stadium debacle and all the other nonsense that came out last summer. It just, for most clubs last summer in January, the windows were pretty poor for everybody. And again, it happens every year when there's a big major tournament on, whether that's a World Cup year or a Euros year. Okay, we've got football and tarts right now, at the Club World Cup, going out there getting a few extra pennies. But they've had an extra window to go and do that. So that should now mean that the rest of the funnel on Monday starts to the rest of the machine starts to turn a bit quicker.
RFC 72 again is asking, do you think Thelwell and Purdy will stay closer to home with the transfers, or do you think they will try and diversify?
That's a really good question. One that I think I'm optimistic that they'll be astute enough to get the best bang for our buck, and if that means shopping in unforeseen markets that we're not too knowledgeable of, then yeah, I'm all for it. You've got to, it's clean slate. We've just got to have all the faith in the process and trust what's going to be put in front of us is going to be entertaining again. And I'm definitely the prevalence that they're going to be signing the best players that they can for the money that we have, irrespective of continent, nationality. By all means, if you can get somebody that's in Britain, but if you can get somebody, I think somebody said Scandinavia earlier, I'm not going to be against that. I'm not going to be against shopping in the Moroccan market, because we've seen what that can bring. And I think the price for Iggeman's mooted for around about £1 million. I could be wrong, could be less.
I think he was about 1.75, mate. 1.75 roughly we got him for.
So, I'm all for it.
Stevie, just a quick one here before we sort of wrap up. Russell Martin's brought in two guys with him that he trusts. Your guy, Matt Gill, who's been with him, MK Don, Southampton, and Swansea. And then he's brought in the performance guy from Southampton. And then your guy, Charai, still there. Is there anybody else you want to see come in into his setup? Somebody that's maybe he's not worked with before, but somebody that's going to be that sort of that bridge between the manager and the fans, that link, that Rangers link? Or do you not want it to be somebody? Do you just want the right man for the job?
See, really quickly, Dino saying they're best bang for a buck. That should be your catchphrase, mate. Best bang, Dino. But no, I think we've mentioned it before. Kevin Thompson, I think he'd be a great shout. But obviously he's already at the club, so I'm happy he's there. Stephen Davis, I would like to see him there, but ultimately I don't need a Rangers man in that setup. We need guys who, like Mitch said at the top of the show, we want guys who are professional, are competent, and they're good in their position. And that filters down for the top.
Dino's
Russell
definitely
Martin
heard that.
thinks what was
Said Dino's definitely heard that.
that? But
Professional
as
and
it's like
competent.
quality people in the right positions, it filters down for the top. So yeah, I think if Martin's happy with what he's got, then let him go. The Moroccan guy, I don't think he'll actually stay. I think he'll go. I can't see him staying for too much longer. So maybe there's another position to fill there, perhaps. So yeah, potentially Kevin Thompson would definitely be great for me. But if the manager's happy with what he's got, then we go with that.
Mitch, anybody you want to see come in?
I think there's a bit of a concern when it comes to Shirai. I genuinely love Shirai as a coach, but there's also been some murmurs linking him with a couple of jobs in Belgium in the last couple of days as well. That is it, the Vesteros job. I probably butchered the name of it, but like he's been linked with a couple of jobs out in Belgium and somewhere else. So, and I know prior to coming to us, he did have aspirations of going on to club management himself. But what I do think we'll see, and I think this is very much a 49ers thing, is we'll see club appointed coaches being the way forward, where whoever insert manager X, whoever manager is, you know, whether that's Russell Martin, who it is right now, or whoever's the next manager, you know, 3-4 years from now. But I think we're going to see that continuality coaches there of you are club appointed coaches, you are part of the club's new DNA, and you work for Rangers and Rangers alone. And when you go, there is a funnel of people very similar to like the Red Bull setup, where there is literally a full pecking order of a factory of coaches where we go, right, we'll just take you from over here and we'll pop you in here. You know, and for me, I'll be honest, and I've said it before, predominantly, our ex-players haven't particularly made very good coaches or managers when you look at the ones that have stepped into it.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of guys like Kevin Thompson and I think guys like Stephen Davis that they have a really bright future. But for me, Kevin Thompson, and I hope he's not watching this when I say this, by the way, like Kevin Thompson either needs to get back into coaching at a bit of a higher level than under 18s than he is now, or he's going to become the next great what if manager. You know, what if he did get into management? I think that's for me. I would like to see some of these guys like Stephen Davis and Kevin Thompson go do something either as a coach or a manager elsewhere rather than serving their apprenticeship with us. I know KT's obviously had the Kelty Hearts gig and stuff like, but I would like to see them at a similar SPFL type level, do something and earn some stripes. Thanks, Paul. You're welcome. You've ruined my week twice this week, Paul. So just you can take that one in the chin. You've still got working brakes in the car. But I think honestly, genuinely club appointed coaches will be the way forward for us. And you know, Barry was fine for what he was there to do come the end of the last season. Like, it wasn't great, it wasn't inspired, it reeked of, you know, Parks 1 and Parks 2. But he did what he did well, but we don't need somebody with a pair of brown brogues chest thumping on the side of the park while we horse, you know, to a 2-goal lead. You know, I don't need to see that again. Just put me in the best qualified men for the job, and that's all I need in my life.
Yeah, no, it's bang on. Last question, so going to be a quick one. This came from Scotty Cameron on the Facebook page. He asked everyone what their if they were to pick one player from a successful Rangers team, who would it be to come into this squad now, and what would they bring? We're short in time, so I need a one-word answer. Your player,
Loudrop.
Right, and what does he bring?
He's God.
Stevie?
If I came home from work and I found Brian Laudrup in bed with my wife, I would quietly go downstairs and make that man a sandwich, let him finish. Greatest player I've ever seen. But do something different for Dino, I would go for Richard Gough, absolute leader. Just, you knew when he stepped on the park, like everybody was at their absolute best because he was a skipper. He led by example. Great defender, even got goals now and again. Tremendous player.
Mitch?
For me, I'm going to go slightly off centre, Stefan Kloss.
Oh, good shout, good shout. I'd go for Alberts because I miss that left peg. I miss that left peg. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. Just before we finish up, I just want to shout out to Mitch, Stevie, and Dino for joining us, and shout out to the host, the sponsor of the pod, the Off to the Match I Go. If you head over to that website and use our code Journal10, you'll get 10% off in the shop before you check out there. So just remember, folks, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thanks very much.